Today on the program, we discuss the legal profession, the rules of professional conduct, and the global effects in the practice of law in Nigeria. Our guest is a senior advocate of Nigeria, founder and managing solicitor of the law firm Okocha and Okocha. Among his numerous titles, he is a life member of the Honorable Body of Benches, the highest body of excellence in the legal profession in Nigeria, which is charged with the statutory responsibility of admitting prospective students into the Nigerian bar. He is of the view that the bar should adopt some sort of clinical training for new wigs before they practice law. Also this week, we take a look at some of the trending stories in the courtroom, plus our question of the week. Is the right to protest an absolute right? Well, a few lawyers share their thoughts. And that's the lineup on this episode of Law Weekly. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Millicent Walker. Law students, even young lawyers, often wonder what steps can be taken in the first few years of practice to increase their chances of achieving long-term success in the legal profession. You might have heard that after the April 2018 bar final examinations, over 1,000 students were called to the bar. But how many have jobs currently, or how much is left from previous years? Is it a case of too many lawyers and too little jobs? Well, these final year students disagree. For them, the recipe of becoming an outstanding newbie lawyer is not far-fetched. They started by talking about how they got here in the first place.
My name is Abidjilo Atosin Mercy. I'm a 500 level law student.
Daniel Hadidigba, I'm a 500 level student of the Faculty of Law.
I'm Clementina Uzogo, I'm a final year law student. I've basically always wanted to be a lawyer.
My sojourn as a student of the law was not particularly inspired by any occurrence or any movie. I actually opted to study law after a failed attempt at studying English.
I decided to study law after I watched a movie about how a woman that was suffering, typical Nollywood movie, a woman suffering and having so many issues, being maltreated by her in-laws and all of that, and then a lawyer came to her aid.
The nature of law, there is not going to be at any point where we would say that there is no more job for lawyers. That's actually the nature of law. Being that law is all pervasive and all in every sphere of human life, even in other professions too, the services of a lawyer is required.
When I made it into the Faculty of Law, I had to have a conscious inquiry into what law really means itself, into the doings of law, into the activism of law.
Certain aspects of law have evolved and people are making a living from practicing in this aspect. Such aspects like ADR, that's alternative dispute resolution, we have taxation, we have maritime, we have cyberspace law, we have intellectual property, we have energy, we have entertainment law. So many of these evolving spheres of law are very lucrative and they have very few people there. They have very few people specializing in those areas. So it makes it a good place for you to go and nestle and build a career. If not law, definitely business.
I know I've always wanted to either be a banker or a lawyer.
If it is not law, then it will still be law.
Welcome back. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Okocha, has some advice for lawyers and lawyers-to-be. He takes us a walk down memory lane.
Most of our lawyers, as at 1960, studied law in England. The background of our judicial system is the English legal system. And we now received English law, received their rules of practice and procedure. It was only in 1962 that we established our own institution for training persons to be admitted to practice law in Nigeria. That is the Nigerian Law School. Incidentally, I had served for 4 years between 2012 and 2016 as chairman of the Council of Legal Education. So, until the law school was established, then in Lagos, Iboshere Street, and the first set were, I think, 8 of them, every lawyer that came from England only had to go and enroll in the Supreme Court, and he could open his office and begin to practice as a solicitor and advocate of the Supreme Court. And it was irrelevant. In England, we have a dichotomy. You have barristers, you have solicitors. But whether you trained as a solicitor in England or as a barrister in England, as you came back to Nigeria, just go and enroll at the Supreme Court, and you can open shop as a legal practitioner.
Don't we still have a deficiency in trying to practice as both an advocate and a solicitor?
It's not a deficiency, because you see right now England has even accepted that solicitors themselves may actually act as advocates and present cases in court. In America, there's no such dichotomy. Lawyers who have been admitted to the bar can go to court to present cases, but they basically train under the same regime, which is what is happening now. Once you have a law degree, you go to the Nigerian Law School and pass a relevant examination, you will be admitted to practice as a legal practitioner.
As lawyers, how important is practical experience before handling any case?
Very, very important. Indeed, from the law school, we've tried to say they should adopt what they call clinical training. And it's taken from the doctors and their clinical training, housemanship and all that. A man who wants to be a lawyer, a woman who wants to be a lawyer, should begin to see the law in practice. And I look back at my own experience as a young man. During the Civil War, I was going to stand next to a magistrate court in Umuahia, watching lawyers prosecuting cases, defending cases before magistrates, not even a high court. And it left some lasting impressions on me. So, and even when you come into practice, the first few years you will be expected to be observing others. In the olden days, that's how barristers were trained. No formal education. You just follow another barrister, and then along the line you'll be imbibing all his mannerisms and learning to do deviling, what they call deviling. Go and look at law books and dig up authorities. So the training is very important, and I hope that the Council of Legal Education will continue to give it the impetus which it requires.
Do you agree that today's practice is full of misconducts, ethical violations, with lawyers, judges paying little or no attention to the legal professional ethics?
I agree. Indeed, I have been chairman of the disciplinary committee at some point in time. I am a member of the body of benchers, which has the authority to discipline lawyers through its legal practitioners disciplinary committee. You know, as everything is increasing, population, number of lawyers, number of jurisdictions, number of courts, number of clients, a lot is going wrong. And you know, the public sometimes is not too aware that lawyers are also subject to law, also subject to rules and regulations that should determine how they should act, especially in their dealings with their clients. Cases of misappropriation of clients' funds have been rife. Cases of double dealing. Some lawyers are known to have taken money from two sides. And we see all that. Some lawyers are known to have collected millions of money on behalf of their clients. They put the money in their personal accounts. The rules indicate that each lawyer should have what they call a client's account. And any money of your client that comes into your hand should go into the client's account. But as always, difficulty in making people realize that this is totally unacceptable, and then the long period of time it takes to deal with such cases. But as I say, concerted effort is being put into the matter by both the Nigerian Bar Association and the Honorable Body of Benchers.
So what is paramount, a lawyer's duty as an officer of the court or his duty to his client?
The paramount duty is the duty to the law. We have those three duties: the duty to the court, the duty to your colleague, your duty to your client. The paramount duty is your duty to the court. Because ultimately, we stand for justice. When your client has a bad case, to honestly confide in him that, look, this case is bad. This is what I can do within the parameters of the law to help you. And we are not at any time permitted to deceive the court. So the paramount duty is to the court, regardless of our client's interests.
As a senior advocate of Nigeria, what role can senior advocates everywhere in the country play in sanitizing the legal profession?
Leadership. That is what being a senior advocate, imposes on you. Appropriate and dedicated leadership in the profession. And so senior advocates are expected to lead the way. So it becomes anathema for me when I hear that senior advocates are engaged in professional misconduct. As senior advocates, we are leaders, and we are supposed to show the examples to our juniors, not just those under our employment, but also to all juniors in the profession.
Is our system turning out too many lawyers than we can handle?
There has been an argument that we are turning out too many lawyers. But go to America. We don't even have in Nigeria the number of lawyers you have in, say, New York State. One state of the United States of America. Look at our population. And there are studies undertaken by people who are engaged in training of lawyers, people who are engaged in production of legal practitioners, as to how many lawyers can effectively serve, a populace. The argument is, how can you be turning out 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 lawyers a year? Where will they find employment? But people fail to understand that a lawyer, a legal practitioner, does not necessarily have to practice law. He can be engaged in other activities, including politics, including administration. You follow? At some point we said, if every local government in Nigeria, and there are about 770-something of them, employs one lawyer as a legal advisor, not only will he be gaining from the legal knowledge of that legal advisor, it will be helping us reduce this question of unemployment among lawyers. And with our population, we actually need more lawyers. Look at the police, for instance. If the police department had only lawyers in their what we call legal department, of course, the excesses that we complain about on the part of the police will be reduced to a large extent. So I do not subscribe to that argument that we have too many lawyers in Nigeria.
Are law students, young lawyers, to be prepared for global best practices?
Well, no school can ever fully and properly equip any product of that school. The world is a place where you finally begin to get to equip yourself. There's a lot of self-development in the legal profession and indeed in every profession. So, yes, it may be argued that our young lawyers are not properly equipped. The training at the law school does not teach them everything, but with experience. And this is why these days we are recommending pupillage. When I left the law school in 1978, Nigeria had a law, the Legal Practitioners Private Practice, in fact it was a private practice decree we called it, not just in the legal profession but indeed all professions. You had to undergo a mandatory period of 5 years under an established organization before you can open shop as a private practitioner, medicine, law, and so on. And some people have credited my set of the law school with success because of that regime in place then. Because we all had to go and register and work for established law firms for at least 5 years before we opened our own offices. It helped. So today now we are insisting that lawyers should at least go mandatory pupillage after they emerge from the law school. Some have said 2 years. Some have said 5 years. But where are the law offices to take them all? It's not possible because, you see, the economy is down. Even the established law firms have difficulties maintaining their services because of the earning that they are expecting that they are not getting. It's difficult to impose a salary regime We cannot have a minimum wage as the labor unions are demanding. The last record I have, the minimum wage in Nigeria should be 18,000 naira per month. You can't pay a lawyer 18,000 a month. You follow? I know what I pay as a minimum in my own law firm. I even concede that it is not sufficient to help the lawyer. The Bar Association at some point tried to fix minimum allowances payable to young lawyers. It cannot be enforced because some of the seniors, some of the law firms are not making that much to even pay those young lawyers. And a young lawyer who is determined to learn the profession, to learn practice, and to succeed in practice should focus on learning rules of practice and procedure and how to present cases in court.